May I speak to you in the name of the one holy and mothering God. Amen. Please be seated. So, when I set out to do my sermon preparation for this week, I said, I am not mentioning Mother's Day because it's not a liturgical thing. And Mother's Day, while it can be a day of lovely celebration for some, it can also be a day of great pain for those who have struggled with infertility, who were never able to become a mother, even though it was a deep longing for them, for people who have complicated relationships with their mothers, for people who have lost their mothers, for mothers who've lost their children. It's also a painful day. So I didn't want to talk about it in my sermon. And yet here I am. Because what I realized was that this Mother's Day coincides with Good Shepherd Sunday, which the fourth Sunday of Easter is always Good Shepherd Sunday. There's always a theme of shepherding happening. And when I looked at the readings, I saw a theme of a God who nurtures and comforts and loves us. And when I think of mothers, that is what I think of, is someone who nurtures and comforts and loves us. And when I say the readings, I mean every single reading had some element of that. In the first reading from the book of Acts, where we have Peter coming to heal Tabitha, I noticed that Peter didn't say, "Hey, Tabitha, get up," and then walk out of the room. He said, "Tabitha, get up." He knelt down, he took her hand, and he helped her up. That was a very nurturing moment. And if we remember last week's gospel, where there was that conversation between the resurrected Jesus and Peter on the beach, and Jesus kind of telling Peter, "If you love me, tend my sheep." And here is Peter doing just that, tending one of Jesus's sheep. I imagine that many of us have been nurtured and comforted by the words of the 23rd Psalm. That idea of the Lord as a shepherd who's a very tender shepherd, who's leading us into green pastures where we can get good food, leading us beside still waters. The 23rd Psalm gives us an image of a God who is preparing a table before us in the presence of our enemies, who is not just filling our cup, but giving us so much that our cup runs over so that we can feed others. And the image that we are left with is of a God whose goodness and steadfast love will pursue us all the days of our lives. Then we get that picture from the book of Revelation. Another nurturing image of God, of a God who will always provide for us, who will not let us be hungry. We will hunger and thirst no more. We will not be scorched by the sun because God will make sure we put our sunscreen on just like every good mom does. God will lead us to the waters of the springs of life. And God will wipe away every tear from our eyes. And when I hear those words of wiping away every tear, the image that I have is of a mother bending down to wipe away the tears of her child's face. That's an image of a nurturing, mothering God. And then in the gospel, we have this image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd, where he says, I know my sheep and my sheep know me. And in Bible terms, knowing often means love. I love my sheep and my sheep love me. They follow me. So our readings today on this Mother's Day give us an image of a God who mothers, a God who nurtures, a God who comforts and cares for us. And that's important. So theologian Elizabeth Johnson, in her book, She Who Is, which is a book I highly recommend, talks about how the symbol of God functions in a religious community to show us how to treat each other. And she says throughout the book, she just repeats the symbol of God functions. Many of us are deeply concerned about the streak of white Christian nationalism that's happening not only in our country, but throughout the world. And when we think about the image of God that one has to be a white Christian nationalist, it's an image of a God that is exclusionary, of a God that just wants to fight with other people. And when our image of God is a warlike God, that's what happens, is we just decide to fight with each other. If our image of God is one of exclusion and hate, that's what we're going to do, because our image of God shows us how to behave. So when we get these images of God, of a nurturer, as a mother, as a comforter, what we get is we get a role model of how to treat other people, of what to do, how we are to be in the world. And that is to be agents of love and comfort and nurturing. We are called to feed people. We are called not to exclude, but to bring in and to love. That's what this idea of a mothering God is. It's a God that tells us that we not only need to be nurtured and comforted and loved ourselves, but that's what we are to do. That's our marching orders. That is how we follow Jesus, is by nurturing others, by being a sign of peace and comfort, by making sure that no one is hungry or thirsty, that no one is scorched by the sun, leading people to water, leading people to what has given us life. That's what this idea of a mothering God gives us. So I invite you this week to expand when you think of God. Expand your image of God beyond that of an old man with a white beard. If you ask an 11-year-old what God looks like, that's what they tell you. And most of us don't get much further than that. Expand your idea of God. Expand your idea of God to that mother that's wiping away the tear. Expand your image of God to a woman in labor, to a hen who is gathering in her children, gathering her brood, protecting them and comforting them and feeding them. And then think about how that new image of God for you makes you be in the world. And go out and nurture Jesus' sheep. Go out and feed God's people. Bring those in from the margins and let them know that they are deeply loved. And while you're at it, make sure that you know that you are deeply loved.